Hey, good morning, everybody. Just waiting till about 8:30 my time to get this thing started. Yep, I see your comments down there. Definitely doing a live. Got a lot of critical things I'd like to cover with you guys to show you how close you are to the rate changing. Oh, there's sound. I can see this. I've got a sound indicator on a screen. There's sound. I just hadn't been talking yet. So there should be sound. So in my opinion, I'm personally feel that the rate will most likely change in December. To answer your question, I'm going through some of your comments right now at the bottom. Yeah, I don't go live yet alone. I'm not even right now on Patreon. I'm coming straight to you guys. So there's things I do, just so you guys know, I do a different level of research than most of the other content creators out there. I dive in. I usually have my head buried in this about 2 hours a day. Let's get started here, guys. It's 8:30 my time. All right. Hey, hope you guys are all doing well. I see your comments. It's good to see you guys and good to work with you guys. Hope you guys are all doing well. Let's get into the news though. Here's what I want you guys to realize. There's a lot of angles you have to look at this at, and just so you guys know, I'm not looking at your comments right now. I'm in the text box. I'm actually looking more at my work that I have on the screen. I can jump into your comments once I finish the actual material that I want to cover. So I want you guys to think about something. Let's kind of just talk about how the rate change, like there's a critical period in this, and then let's expand from that critical period, okay? The critical period to the rate change would be a budget period. Okay, so you have a budget period, that's the critical timepiece. Now, how does it expand from there? Okay, well, you have a budget period, but then you have a budget. Remember, budgets are calculated off of the currency value. Okay, so if a budget is calculated off the currency value, that would mean that both the budget and rate change have to happen in very close proximity to each other around the budget period. Okay, well, let's look at what's happening around. So right now, the next budget period would be starting next year, January. Let's talk about what we have happening around that. I think that's important to understand. A lot of the news I'm going to show to you guys today and revisit with you guys suggests that Iraq is ending their old domestic. When I say domestic, I just mean everything they did within their country. Okay, nothing on an international level. The old domestic Iraq is ending at the end of this year of 25. The new international Iraq will begin in January, okay, around the budget period. So I wanted you to see that. Okay, I wanted you to see how everything revolves around a budget period. Now, just so you guys know too, this weekend right here, this weekend of December 20th, is the same historical weekend when Iraq changed their rate and devalued the currency back in Sunday, December 20th of 2020. So again, this is that same historical weekend. Now, one of the things I shared with you guys, and it was 100% my opinion, it's always important to share with you guys when it's your opinion, not fact, that I really felt, let's review what happened last weekend. Well, we know that the UN, and you can see it right here on the screen, the UN is ending its missions and work within the country of Iraq as of, actually, this is the wrong date. It's actually December 31st. Okay, so again, December 31st is when the UN will be ending their work and missions with the country of Iraq. Okay? Now, so with that said, last weekend though, the UN flew in its big dog. They flew in their big dog, which was Antonio Guterres. He took a fancy limousine ride with a gun salute, and he walked in to Iraq's capital of Baghdad on a red carpet. He met with Sudanese side by side. They each had their own podium. They each gave their own custom speeches. Baghdadi spoke first, and Sudani had said that he took his time to thank the UN of all of their hard work and efforts to help Iraq turn the country around and restore stability so they could be eligible to go international, restore their sovereignty, and revalue the currency, theoretically get back on the world stage. So he thanked the UN for that. He also told them that he was going to name a street in the green zone of Baghdad after the United Nations. Okay. Then Guterres, the head of the UN, spoke, and he congratulated Iraq for achieving all their minimum requirements to restore their sovereignty, which was for Iraq, they restored all their stability so that their sovereignty from with underneath the sanctions of both the UN and the US could be restored. And it has. Okay. So again, I wanted you guys to realize the timing of this. And again, I'm not telling you when the rate's going to change. It is very close. I don't know the date that the rate's going to change. Okay. I know that this, to me personally, this weekend is very important for me personally to watch and observe. I don't know when it's going to happen though. Along with the remainder of this year is very important for me to watch and observe. I favor this second half of December more than I do. I personally don't think this will go into January, but that's simply my opinion. Okay. Let's get into the first article now. It says before her work ends, that the reference of her means the UN. Before her work ends at the end of this year, the UNAMI or the UN signs documents to hand over its Baghdad compound to the Iraqi government. So before the end of this year or before the UN ends its work within Iraq, they're going to hand over their compound to the Iraqi government. Now keep in mind the United States already did that with its massive 1 mile square compound that the US government had in the green zone of Baghdad. They already turned that back over. That's why, if you guys haven't been with me or haven't known, right now the US is building a new $800 million embassy in the Kurdistan region. But again, it'll be a major scale down or reduced size facility compound again, but it's $800 million. The US is building that in Kurdistan. Okay. But this is critical. This right here is the UN announcing Iraq's sovereignty and removal of sanctions to the entire world right here. They said, hey, we're done. We're exiting your country. We're going to give you our compound back to you guys. So again, that's a sovereignty announcement. Now right here, here's another one, similar to the last one. Al-Sudani, Iraq has succeeded politically and in terms of security with the UN approval and international recognition. Okay. Let's look at this. Let's look at the summary on this for you guys right here. Prime Minister Sudani said that Iraq has achieved major political and security successes recognized by the United Nations and the international community. Right there. Do you see that? You see that? That what they did last weekend was an international stability / it was like a graduation ceremony where the UN came out announcing to the world, hey, world, Iraq has announced all the needed required stability for them to rejoin the international world. That's what last weekend was. It was a stability graduation ceremony. Right here, Prime Minister Sudani said that Iraq has achieved major political and security successes recognized by the United Nations and the international community. They're announcing Iraq is basically sovereign and international now. Okay. Speaking at a memorial ceremony, Al-Sudani highlighted Iraq's progress over the past 3 years as an achievement of state, its people, national forces, and not just the government. He said, the end of the international coalition's mission and the conclusion of UNAMI's work reflect Iraq's strengthened sovereignty, independent political decision-making. Al-Sudani stressed Iraq's renewed engagement with regional and international partners as Iraq as a fully sovereign state. Right here, they announced in this article that Iraq is a fully sovereign state. Okay, see how critical that is? That's why I said what happened last weekend, that kind of like a graduation ceremony of achieving sovereignty and stability, that had to be publicly announced to the world by the UN before the rate could change, in my opinion, and it did. It happened last weekend. That's one of the reasons, to me personally, again, this is just my personal opinion. At the end of the day, nobody's ever been right. But I'm just, the way I study, the way I think, this is a very important for me just to watch and observe. Okay, because again, remember, like I was telling you at the very beginning of this video, this weekend is the same historical weekend when they adjusted their rate back on Sunday, December 20th of 2020, okay? Now also keep in mind, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, just, again, something to think about, consider whether, and I didn't know, just, again, this is nothing more than something to think about, a level of consideration. Does it make sense for you guys that, I mean, do you feel that Iraq should maybe possibly consider changing the rate too before the new year and before the holidays, maybe before Christmas, before the New Year's, that kind of thing too? And I want you guys, before I go any further, I want you guys to think about the how long you think the formation process of the government's going to take. In my opinion, it could go very fast. Okay, they've already, at the elections, what they theoretically voted for were the members of parliament. Okay, so the members of parliament, that's done. That's essentially done, minus the three top leaders of parliament. They're going to get those selected within the next session of parliament on December 29th. Okay, but coming down to what would be the country's president, that's chosen by the Kurds. Then you have the largest bloc selects or nominates the prime minister. Now I want you to think about something here. If Kurdistan reselects the president they've already had, that'll be fast, quick, and done. If the largest bloc chooses, and selects Sudani again, which my personal opinion is I think they're going to, if they reselect Sudani, then theoretically what they're doing is putting him in very quick, and because again he's accomplished more than any other prime minister has to date. Second, he already has a formed selected cabinet. So if they re-nominate and put Sudani back in as the prime minister, he already has a functioning cabinet. I'm just trying to show you and reveal to you how fast and how quick the government could be formed. The government could be done very quickly by the very end of January, okay, if that's the route they go. And there's a good chance they might. Let's finish this article, guys. I'm sorry, I'm just getting all long-winded here. So Sudani said that Iraq has achieved major political security success. Yeah, last week they announced to the world, the UN did, that Iraq has achieved all their needed stability to be a fully sovereign state and go international, theoretically, indirectly stating to revalue their currency as well. So it says, he noted election participation and fulfill constitutional requirements. Okay, bottom line, Sudani framed recent political security diplomatic developments as proof that Iraq has regained sovereignty, international legitimacy, and momentum toward long-term stability and development. Okay, now Sudani considers the termination of international coalition's mission and the work of the United Nations mission in Iraq as success for his government. Again, it's ending because they're now sovereign and they have the minimum stability needed and required for them to rejoin the international world, change their currency and go international, change their rate and go international to the world. Now, we studied this in great detail on Patreon, so this might be new to some of you that were not with me on Patreon. Let's cover this, okay? It says a source within the journalist syndicate reveals that the date for the disbursement of the annual grant. Well, remember, they always do audits at the end of every year in December, right before the new budget period rolling out in January of every year, okay? So they normally pretty much in January freeze or suspend all monies. That's part of it. Plus right now they have the government is deemed as a caretaker government, okay? So as a caretaker government, they have very minimal access to funds, okay? Very, very minimal access to funds. Now, with that said, I want you to see something here. It says right here, and again, I researched this for you guys. This is actually going to come out of the what do you call it? the 26 budget. This would come from the 26 budget, which isn't even done yet. Okay, and I'll show you that aspect in a moment. It says the source denied the validity of circulating reports regarding suspending or withholding the grant this year. So it says right here, the annual grant for journalists, that's what this is about, a grant money for journalists and intellectuals will be dispersed at the end of this month. Okay? And it says right here, where does this money come from? Federal general budget of Iraq. Well, they don't have a 26 budget yet, okay? They have not even approved the amended 25 budget either. It says the grant is allocated annually in the federal general budget law. It is classified as a social cultural support, not a salary. Parliament approves the allocation as part of the yearly budget. Okay, so it's public money and so forth, not syndicate funds. Okay? Now, here's some other interesting articles. It says right here, Iraq launches its first flight to Europe. An Omani plane flew to Copenhagen. So again, both Iraq and the European Union are resuming flights after this article. The previous articles I saw said within or around 34 years. That's kind of what this right here it says. Yeah, so roughly 35 years right here. Let's look at this summary here real quick for a second. This is just a summary. How long flights to this European destination have been suspended? Okay, they've been suspended since the early 1990s until now. Why? Why were they suspended? Critical piece to understand. European airlines had not operated direct flights to Baghdad since the early 1990s. Again, that's from the European Union due to concerns of the Gulf War, Iraq's invasion with Kuwait. Again, going clear back to the Bush Senior administration. This include routes such as to major European capitals. The last sustained services were cut off from the early 1990s, did not resume until pretty much now, late 2025, okay? And the reason they're resuming is because Iraq has stability. They've cleaned up corruption. They've cleaned up threat risks, security risks to their country. They're stable now, and that was announced to the world by the UN last weekend, okay? They've graduated stability, okay? So I wanted you guys to see that. This is critical. This is just showing you that Iraq's extremely close to getting back on the world stage because they're now being declared as an international sovereign state by the UN. Right here, good old financial advisor. The Sudanese advisor, internal debt. Remember, this guy right here used to be the former number 2 guy to the central bank governor back during the Shabibi term. Good old Mazhar Mohammed Saleh. Sudanese advisor, internal debt is less than we planned when drafting the 3-year budget. Okay, let's look at the summary of this. Prime Minister's financial advisor, Mazhar Saleh, said that Iraq has moved out of a dangerous debt phase. It is in a financially stable position compared to international standards. External debt is only 4% of the GDP, far below the internationally accepted safe ceiling of 60%, supporting Iraq's stable B credit rating. Okay, here's the rest of that data. If you guys need to read any of these, feel free to pause the video and you can see all the data I posted for you. I'm not going to cover everything. It'll take too long. Al-Sudani. And again, this has to do with the UN exiting out of the country by the end of this year. Iraqi sovereignty is strong as evidenced by the termination of the International Coalition's mission and UNAMI. Again, we already covered this in great detail. And if you want to read these, you can pause the video. I'll do little stops. So if you guys want to, again, right here, they're announcing that Iraq is stable and they have the strength. They're also sovereign right there. They're stable and sovereign. Fully sovereign state, again, in that summary. Right here, here's another one. Before her work ends at the end of this year, UNAMI signs documents to hand over its Baghdad compound to the Iraqi government. We already covered this article. Now here's another one for you. This has to do with the region of Kurdistan. Look at the title. Erbil prepares for New Year's celebrations. Okay, the citadel and the streets in a new look. Well, now here's the thing. It says, here's what's different now compared to before and why this kind of article is being highlighted at this moment. The Erbil municipality announced on Friday it has completed preparations for holding the New Year's event in the Kurdistan region. Again, but they're declaring in this that in Erbil, which is Kurdistan, that the New Year's celebrations are going to be different than they ever have before. Why? What makes this year different than ever before? It says, again, I brought forward a summary for you guys. It says, what's different than before? Public celebration without security. So they don't have all the security threat and risks. Okay? They don't have heavy security alerts. They don't have warnings. They don't have restricted movements. They don't have muted and private celebrations. Okay? It says, the story is about urban preparation, lighting, aesthetics, and public space. Remember, they're going big into tourism because they're about to rejoin the international world. No mention of curfews, threats, or emergency measures. That signals normal civic life not under risk. Okay? Confidence in a stability municipalities. Okay? So yeah, security, it says, unless they are confident they don't have issues with security, crowd management, and political stability. Okay? It says this reflects a psychological shift from survival mode to normal life. And again, tourism is increasing, growing, and expanding in Iraq. Okay? These are the reasons why why within Erbil Kurdistan it's going to be completely different. Okay? Hold on. I had more on this that it didn't want to display. Okay, we finished right here. Okay, and that's the last one. Okay, so we got one more here. It says Iraq sets new conditions for car imports next year of 2026. Okay, why is that? And here's the thing, they have some older cars. Going into next year, they've set new requirements, safety measures, and standards for the country of Iraq. Okay? And now with new imported vehicles coming in from the year of 26 on, they have much higher safety standards and requirements for those safety standards for new vehicles coming in. Again, it's because they're going international. That's what this article is telling you right here. It says according, or let me cover two parts here. Al-Dalimi said that under the decision, cars as of model year 2025 and above must comply with new conditions, whether they run on gasoline, gas, electricity, or on hybrid. It says right here, technical requirement number 167 approved by the Iraqi Council of Ministers starting from the year beginning of January of 26. And let's look at this for a second. Whoops, hold on, I lost that. It says the agency has been preparing to implement this decision for some time, as all relevant parties, including companies, traders, importers, have been informed that the decision will come into effect January 1st, 26, so they can make necessary preparations for this part. Again, new safety standard requirements because Iraq is going international. Notice, again, I keep trying to show you how January of 26 or January 1st of 26 is the new international Iraq. The end of 25 is the old domestic Iraq. So 25 ends the new domestic or the old domestic Iraq. January 1st, 26 starts the new international Iraq. That's also when the banking reforms are coming forward. That's an important piece to understand too, is the timing of the banking reforms. This will end. Let's go to our next screen here. So Iraq's sovereignty to the international community. So yes, again, we've already kind of covered this. The UN exiting is a declaration of Iraq being a sovereign, stable state, along with them going international. That's why the UN is ending their work at the end of 25. Out with the old, in with the new. Iraq's gold reserves. Again, this is nothing more than Basel III asset backing to Iraq's currency, along with their foreign currencies such as their OPEC US dollars. Right here. One thing that's important to see in this, it says Iraq's central bank reduces supply of the dinars. That's, yeah, they got to reduce their M0, their money figures. That's important. But notice, here's the thing. Notice how they finally did that. Let me see something here. I have a summary that might even give us a little bit more detail as to when. It says right here, okay, in the third quarter, all of this was reported in the third quarter of 25. Major reduction right there. Period of major reduction in the third quarter, and it would probably be the fourth quarter. And they talk about their M1 and M2 figures, their money supply. Okay, so that's all critical to understand. They're reducing the money supply. to help them or position them to revalue the currency. So yeah, Q3, Q4 kind of thing of 25. They reduced the M1, M2 figures for the money supply. Very critical step towards revaluing the currency. Retail e-payments via local cards rise in Q3 of 2025. Okay, again, that's because they're going digital. They already told us they're going to go cashless and 100% electronic digital in July of 2026. Okay, but right now they're just going kind of a combo of both. They'll be right now they're majority, and even going into 26, they're majority debit electronic. But they've told us that as of July of 26, they'll be 100% cashless. Okay, but they're just showing us right here how retail e-payments via local cards has risen in Q3 of 2025. So that's it for you guys. Okay, I just wanted you to see how close you were, see how things have changed. I mean, if we look at there's a lot of you guys that have been this for 10 plus years. Those of you that have that amount of time in this, 10 plus years, I want you to think about, compared to other years or periods you've been in this, how much confirming news have you seen to this period now? I've been in this since 09. I've got about 16 years in this. And this is, and also I research and chase my own news. My head's buried in their news 2 hours a day. This period right here in Q4 of this year, this is the most record amount of news that I have ever seen and witnessed, suggesting to me and really confirming and revealing to me personally how close I am to the rate changing. I've never witnessed this amount of record news. Okay, and it's not even just news. You have the U.S. withdrawing. Remember, Trump said back in January of 2020, Trump said the U.S. is not going to exit till they pay us. Well, we have a gazillion dinar, but technically they haven't paid us until that dinar has a value applied to it. That's when we're paid, is when they've revalued and the currency that we of their currency that we have has value applied to it. Okay, and they've reinstated. That is what's so critical in this. Okay, so anyway, I wanted you guys to see how close you were. Again, there's news in this that you guys have not seen. There is I found, and I'm not going to publicly put it out there for other content creators. I have in fact, you know what? I don't have the link to it. Anyway, I did, but I lost it. Anyway, I found a central bank article that is it's labeled as classified in the right corner of every sheet. It's a 60-page PDF. It has the entire roadmap strategy plan for their banking reform. It goes into effect January 1st of 2026. So again, that's why the old Iraq, domesticated Iraq, ends in December of 2025, and they're showing that to you. I see some of your comments down on the screen. Some of you guys are saying hold on. Like, some of you are asking, how does something expire at the end of this year? Well, think about it for a second. Isn't the UN exiting out at the end of this year? Think about it carefully. If the UN perceives or declares Iraq as having enough stability to exit out at the end of this year, and then we have brand new international banking reforms, and like this car one that I showed you right here with the cars, they say the cars with brand new international standards are coming into Iraq as of what? Oh, January 1st of 2026. That's right. This is the new international Iraq right here, January 1st, 2026, guys. It's not a secret. It's kind of right here, in a way, right in front of your face. Okay, I keep showing that to you guys. So anyway, again, the old domestic Iraq ends at the end of December 31st, 25. The new international Iraq comes forward January 1st, 2026. That's why the UN is saying, hey, world, Iraq's now a sovereign state, so we're going to exit the hell out of Iraq by the very end of 25. And Iraq will be a sovereign, stable country. We'll allow them to bring some international standards forward starting January 1st, 2026. For those of you questioning things, it's right here. It's in front of you. It's not a secret. Okay? Look at their actions. Look at what they're doing. Don't just read articles. Take the time to look at and analyze what they're doing right in front of you. It's that cut and dry. Friends, you're the best. Again, I'm going to be watching throughout this weekend and the remainder of December to see, if the rate's going to change. When it does, I will do a public video. Here's another thing I want you guys to think about. If you look at the overall condition, look at what, here I'm going to bring something up for. Let's see what XRP's, I just want to show you this as an example. Let's look at what XRP's doing right now, okay? XRP, let's see what its value is. I want to show you guys something. Okay, it's only at $1.92. Anyway, if you look at again, I'm not a financial advisor, but if you look at the overall U.S. economy, it's on a fence right now. It's teetering to where it's just kind of teetering on a fence. It could collapse or it could turn around and restore. Now, some of you would argue that, well, okay, other aspects of the stock market's doing very good. I don't care. I don't care. Do we have how is business, consumer expenses? How much money's being spent? By us, the consumers. It's overall spending's very low. How many layoffs are there? Quite a few. So there's quite a few layoffs. Another thing I want you to think about. I know where I live in Arizona, there's quite a few. We have a tremendous amount of increased shootings with guns. What does that mean? That's mental illness. Okay. My opinion, when you see mental illness spike and rise, that's a tremendous layer of instability. Okay. So here's what I'm trying to share with you. I personally look at a lot of indicators with the economy, but again, my opinion on the economy is I feel it's on a fence. It's teetering to where it could collapse or could increase. So what I'm trying to say is this. The economy I don't think it's completely recovered. And I think it's got quite a ways to go. But my gut feeling, I think we're going to enter into a really bad recession. Okay? Sometime a little ways down the road after the Iraq dinar revalues. And I think that the Iraq dinar is our blessing to utilize financially during that recession. Okay? So here's what I'm trying to say. It's up to everybody how they want to invest their money when this happens. I would be careful. I'm going to be careful how I invest my money. What I'm going to do is anything that's dollar-based, like the securities aspect of the stock market, I'm going to stay out of that. Anything that's U.S. dollar-based, I'm going to stay out of. And here's what I'm going to do, though. Myself and another, he's actually a financial advisor. He's a God-fearing gentleman, but he's a financial advisor for a living. He's well-versed and has many years of experience in this. He's a licensed financial advisor. He's versed and specializes in life insurance policies. I'm going to open a bank with him after this so I can help because I need this, and I'm sure many of you do as well. I'm going to work with this gentleman because he's an amazing man so that we can, help you guys stay out of the dollar and get very good, amazing, and these types of life insurance policy investments do not collapse when the U.S. economy does. They hold, even when the U.S. dollar weakens, these investments hold very strong with tremendous returns. These investments do very well and did very well like back during COVID or the 2007 recession of the United States, okay? So we're going to open up a bank together and bring these investment options to you. And again, there's lots of other things. You could invest in gold and silver. You can invest in different cryptos. And those are the directions I will be going for myself after this happens. But again, I just want you guys to realize that again, I'm personally going to stay out of the US dollar because that's where I feel we would lose is if we stayed in anything that's dollar based. Friends, you're the best. I hope you have an amazing, wonderful weekend. And I want to wish all of you happy holidays. Take care and thank you for joining.